Metro Migrant Resource Centre works with what are referred to as the new and the emerging communities. A large portion of the new and emerging communities, which I guess is referred to as humanitarian entrants and refugees, are young people. As a result of that, we as an agency have had to come to look at methodologies for engaging these young people who many mainstream services in fact find are very difficult to engage for a range of reasons, either through language, through simply not knowing that these kinds of services exist. Mum and dad do shift work or might not have any work at all, very often no work at all. Definitely no cars for mum and dad to be able to take young people to agencies and so on. I guess the changes that we've seen in adopting the benchmarks and adopting the approaches that we do with regards to mentoring, that we feel much more confident in the kind of work that we do. We certainly see that our workers are much more confident and clear about the approach that they take and the way that they will work with young people. That young people feel, as a result, confident and comfortable in working directly with us.
I think when you're working with young people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, you need to be a lot more fluid and ready to improvise, because you can't always expect the same thing each week. So one week you might have 5 people turn up, and the next week you might have 2 people turn up. Sometimes you're running a program for, say, teenagers, 15 plus, but it's school holidays and they're responsible for caring for their siblings. So all of a sudden you've got 8-year-olds turning up. So you need to consider the responsibilities.
Even though they may present the same as other young people, there are so many things going on in the background. Sometimes you think you're communicating and you find that you're not. I think their backgrounds have been quite severe. So it's harder to gain their trust. Superficially, you may think you have their trust, but I don't think you do for a while. And that's an issue that we've come across. We thought you were going quite well with a particular person, and then you find out that in fact the communication wasn't as clear as what you thought. So you then have to readjust. But that was what makes it interesting. It's a challenge.
Over the years of doing this kind of work, we have found that mentoring is one of the best methodologies for engaging these young people. And not only mentoring in perhaps the traditional sense of mentoring, that is the one-to-one type mentoring, although we do that, we find that there's a range of methodologies that we have to engage so that we can capture some of the complexities of presentation of these young people.
Coming from that background and coming into Australia, when I walk into a workplace and I see a black person, I feel that sense of hope, and it just makes me feel comfortable. I'm like, oh, okay, so there's actually somebody I can speak to. So even though I came here as an international student with all that knowledge, I still have that thing where I can actually relate to someone who looks, similar to me.
We have mentored several young people years ago that ended up becoming peer mentors within their own peer groups, and now 1 or 2 of those have been employed at Metro Migrant Resource Centre and studying to be youth workers themselves or work in community development. So that's some of the results that we've seen as a part of what we do.
From my experience, mentoring is being able to provide the mentees with some kind of skills that they can go away with, no matter what context that's being used in.
I think a mentor is someone who has skills and knowledge and is working with you to achieve something.
Because the role of a mentor is to support the person at hand. So it's coming alongside an individual to help them attain or reach a goal that they have. And sometimes it can be individual goals to get somewhere, but sometimes it's also mentoring in a brother-sister approach where you become a friend or someone who's basically instilling life skills into a young person or into a peer to help them overcome a certain area that they're in their life and to help them reach the next level.
Mentoring is like a combination of like a teacher and a friend and a brother or a sister and a father. It's like taking a whole lot of the archetype roles and sort of bundling them all together and using what you need at any given opportunity. Like sometimes people need a bit of teaching, sometimes they need a little bit of support, sometimes they need a little bit of encouragement, sometimes they need a little bit of guidance, and it's adapting to the individual or the group for where they're at and trying to be sensitive enough to pitch what you're saying to them in whatever role that needs to be.
So in the LEAD program with mentorship, we work with young people who come to us to gain assistance in basically implementing programs to support their peers or to support young people within their communities. So for instance, we worked with a group that was interested in film and media. So we helped them apply for a grant and gave them leadership skills and training on how to run a program to teach young people how to make movies, how to write a script, and how to then have a screening for the movie once it's produced.
Yeah, for me, MRC is like, there's a start, middle, and end. So for me, I have a start where I came from, and MRC is like that middle one. Okay. And there's an end. Okay. If you go out from MRC, so you will be someone.
And what's good about the MMRC that I'm working for at the moment is that I'm mentored. So the mentoring is not just from me down, it goes up as well. So I can sit, effectively with my line manager, and it's not just having a meeting and a report, but there's actually mentoring that goes on, and so there's encouragement that comes down the line to me, and there's suggestions.
Mentoring is a part of the job description of each of our youth workers.
Okay, good. So over there from...
I work in the Sharing Stories project, which is a peer education project that uses theatre to engage young people to raise them up as sexual health educators within their community. So as a peer education project, mentoring is a skill that I'm trying to give young people, and the way that I give that skill to them is I guess through my own modelling. Sexual health is a difficult topic for young people to discuss amongst their peers and their communities. And the way I guess that I mentor them in learning those skills is through drama. So we use role plays to engage them in real life situations where they can practice how to model the sort of behaviour or how to deliver the information that they could or should deliver. I guess I also model informal discussions through our weekly workshops. I guess I don't come in and sit them down and say, here's all the information, now you need to take it out and share it. That we actually just have informal conversations, and then as we role play, things will often come up, and as they come up, then we will have the conversation.
The difference between a camp is it gives people time. Like with a normal program, it's like one day, it's like we'll come here for an hour and then go home. But with a camp, I got to personally know them and know their story, and I felt like I was a part of their life as well as I influenced them, and they sort of allowed me to open up to myself, and that's the best way to explain my experience as a peer mentor.
Just adding on to what Golda said, this was very rewarding for me because this is the first time I've actually came to a camp that I'm a mentor. I didn't know what to expect, how the girls were going to behave, or if they were going to be rude or nice to me or whatever. But besides that, I'm very glad that I was able to inspire them with my story.
I didn't know that there was this and this such things. Like I didn't know that HIV exists in Australia. I thought that once you come here, you get tested, and there's no such thing. There is no STI. There's nothing. I didn't know anything about that. See, I knew that from Anne. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have that knowledge.
Because you have this very special gift that you serve for that special moment.
I was given the opportunity to have my student placement in MMRC under the Settlement Grants Coordinator, Florence Muvandi, While I was doing my work placement, I noticed certain things that I had not previously come across. That is the flexibility as to how the organization works, the flexibility around the organization in terms of how they treat their clients.
Basically, each of our staff, our youth staff, are a mentor to the young people, and young people will feel comfortable in being able to come in. Now, that's not necessarily a drop-in centre approach. We still have strict parameters about appointments and trying to teach young people to come and have appointments and keep appointments, but we also are aware that we have to capture the young person at the time when they do come in, because it might be that they might not come in again.
And they may not be there on time for appointments. They may have other commitments and stuff. So instead of saying, okay, you don't seem like you're ready for this, you don't seem like you want to be supported, come back to me when you're ready. We're like, okay, how do we work around this? How do we work around it? What time is good for you? Can we see you on the weekend? Can we see you on a weeknight? How, and then understand the specific needs of that client group or the specific needs of that young person. Okay, so if they're from a young person, from a very strict Christian background, Muslim background, okay, so we're not going to have a night program, you know what I mean? We'll be flexible, even though that may work for us personally, but we're going to be flexible with what works for them.
So we really want to support the young people to actually feel comfortable to come in at any one point in time. All of our workers understand this principle, and so all of them will adopt a mentoring approach. As said, it is built into their job description. We do not want to turn young people away on any given day just on the basis of, Shirley isn't here or Bill isn't here, so you have to come back another day. We actually want that young person to remain, and we want to be able to work with them. So I guess what we have learnt is to be flexible, to roll with the flow, roll with the punches as that happens, and for young people to feel comfortable that this is a place that they can come. We worked for many years with a young person from Liberia, Jeremiah Wordsworth, who received the WA Young Person of the Year Award in 2010.
When I first see the Jeremiah, the way he motivated the youth, and then the way he encouraged the people, and then he is like really talented person, and also because him, I can stand up in front of the people, and then because he always mentor, and then he always help us the way how to speak in front of the people. I say love, it is a flower, and you, it's only seed.
I'm programs manager here, but even I feel that I've got some sort of a place in working together with the team and the youth team as being a part of this mentoring process. So sometimes I might, the young person might come in and I might chat to them for 10 minutes and just see how they're going, just to see how comfortable they are, or if there are other opportunities that I'm aware of, for example, that they might want to consider in looking up, so linking them into CTV, Perth CTV and things like that, for example. And the front desk, the reception, will also be very receptive. So these are important parts of the mentoring process. Not only that each young person feels comfortable and feels that they can come in and chat to people, but that the whole office, the front, the managers, the administration, the youth workers have a sense of the vulnerability and the complexity of these young people, and therefore will address that and talk to that vulnerability rather than this is a business, yep, you can't come here at these times. There are certain set limits, absolutely, and there are certain times for sure, and young people will be made aware of this, and we are aware of ensuring that young people walk away from here with the skills to engage with mainstream services and mainstream processes.
I learned a lot of skills at the reception, like with Agnes. She taught me how to answer the phone, how to organize files, how to just having that phone conversation with clients. Like, I didn't know all that. Like, as soon as I started like volunteering here and working here, I knew all that.
The advice I'd give mainstream organization in regards to mentoring young people is flexibility, patience, because there's a lot of issues that some people from migrant and refugee backgrounds may have in regards to trusting people, in regards to building that relationship. So I would say to have flexibility, to have understanding and patience with the process of them forming that trust relationship, which can make the mentoring experience better for both parties, and also to understand the cultural context of the young people that they're mentoring, because refugees come from various contexts and countries and histories, so not to just put a blanket like, you know, these are young people from Africa, or these are young people from the Middle East. You know, Africa's got many countries, Middle East has got many countries, many cultures, so to work with them, having that in mind, and being aware of the cultural factors that impact on their mentoring, and respecting and being flexible with their culture. So when the young person feels respected and they feel like they're getting that guidance, I think it will be a good way to actually retain them and support them more.
I think that MMRC approaches mentoring in more of a holistic fashion, in that we look at the young person's development over the length of the project, that we engage not only the young person, but often we have to see how the position of the young person, or often we need to look at what is the position of the young person in the context of the wider community. So for young people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, it isn't about their needs and the advancement of them as an individual. It's often more about how their actions reflect on the rest of their family and the rest of their community. So although I work predominantly with the young person as my primary client, I'm still considering how that is going to affect them in the context of their family. So when I'm working with a young person in a holistic fashion, that doesn't mean that I'm always approaching their parents or I'm always talking to their community. It just means that I'm holding that in my frame of reference when I'm making decisions about what they might be doing.
Things get to be done in this way, not in their way. You know, I
So
don't know.
as a mentor?
Yeah, as a mentor. But someone will. I know someone will not agree with you. They will tell you, "Nah, don't do that. Don't do that, and don't say that."
So someone will come and say that's not the right thing. I'd be like, fine, that's what you want to believe, but here's what I know, and this is how it could help you if you want to listen to this. So here's numbers if you want to go and see.
If you reason with them and tell the alternative, if they didn't listen, the alternative would be this, then you'd have more value.
My experience in mentoring youth has been very positive. I've experienced that often when a young person goes through, for example, an organised mentoring program that might run for 5 to 8 weeks, is that at the end of that program they go away with, I guess, a sense of confidence that they've built through the process, and they also go away with some skills and knowledge around what they've been doing over the past 5 to 8 weeks. So I've experienced that mentoring is quite effective in, I guess, challenging people to shift and change their attitudes, as well as encouraging young people to develop skills that would obviously be useful for them in the long term.
Mainstream service providers need to be aware that these young people struggle with the costs associated with turning up to events. So if you're running a workshop regularly and you're expecting young people to catch a bus or a train to it, straight from school or after school, considering even the cost that might occur, it could be significant for a family from culturally and linguistically diverse background, because they're on a lower income, they might have more people in the family, and it's a struggle to fork out an extra $5 for bus fare once a week for one member of the community of the family.
So in many ways, our youth workers and our staff have to improvise. There might be something that's going on for that young person in the family at home that we need to be sensitive to. You know, we might not necessarily need to know the details, but we certainly need to be sensitive to those kinds of vulnerabilities and these complexities. And at any one point in time, we may then just be there, I guess. And that's another role for a mentor to a certain degree. We can't be there 24/7, but we can be there when we are there, and to be present and fully in relationship as best as we can. I think that's pretty much the way most of our workers see this process of mentoring.
We believe in you. Never sell yourself short. Don't put yourself low. Spread your wings, fly, be a hero. Never sell yourself short. Don't put yourself low.
My experience of working with youth from occult backgrounds is that there's a certain level of unpredictability, and that needs to be recognised and incorporated into how I plan what I'm going to offer for the week. I know that Barnaba is burning to do something, yeah? I know that Jamal is burning to do something. I know Gold is you know, there's so many ideas. Now if we support each other, we can do it, yeah?
One of the things that we're doing with this particular group that I've never done before is that we're inviting guests, and the club members themselves can bring a guest, so they can bring a brother or a sister or a friend, or in one case we had a baby, and one of our current members came originally as a guest, so they were introduced to it that way. So it's an open place, and that's what one of the things I think that we're working on building is a place where they own it as well as us. And that's always interesting to try and create that sense of ownership, because at the same time you are trying to run something, and in our case we're using film and a very expensive camera. So along with the creative skills, we actually have to make sure that they understand responsibility and schedules and things like that. So there's kind of an arts aspect to it, but there's some real life skills that are going to be something that they can use in other areas. You have to coordinate things and you have to work with other people. So even though you think it's just filmmaking, it in fact allows us to introduce the young people to other things.
Sound. I'm good. Action. Cut. Yeah, man. That was alright.
Was okay, but I didn't know. Maybe yes, maybe no, you know. This is the best day of my life. I'm doing what? I don't know.
So on the flip side of the challenges, the other really rewarding part of the job is to walk into a room and see, and over the week, someone that you don't expect to respond to the work, really respond to the work and step up. And there's a young man who's in the filmmaking course who every challenge we set him, he meets, and he doesn't just meet it, he throws his whole self into it, and it's a pleasure to mentor him, because you just have to give him a nudge one way or a nudge the other way, and he absorbs the information and just powers on. And now we've started to give him a bit of work experience outside of MMRC, and he's responding really well to that. It makes me want to help him more, and it makes me actively start thinking about finding avenues of employment for him. And he gets brought up in conversations because it's like, what can we do for this young man, because he's really good.
You don't know people much about like in here, especially when you're alone. But when Jacob came and saw us what we did exactly, you know, he just knew that, yeah, these people can do something. So that's he just want to help us to go forward, you know, with everything, whatever we need in our life.
So get up, stand up, do something. We believe in you. Never sell yourself short, don't put yourself low. Spread your wings, fly, be a hero. Never sell yourself short, don't put yourself low. Spread your wings, fly, be a hero. You can do anything you put your mind in.